Yeah. Bills Mafia. Don Brown. Yeah. It's the Mafia, you know I'm rocking with the Bills. It's the Mafia, you know I'm rocking with the Bills. It's the Mafia, I'm with the Buffalo Bills. It's the Mafia, you know I'm rocking with the Bills. Hey, who you reppin'? What's your team? Who you reppin'? What's your team?
Bills Mafia, what is up? And welcome in to the podcast. But it is not just a podcast today. We are live on YouTube. This is the Bills Brawl, the process show. And I am your host, Charlie Gross, co-host EJ Daniels. EJ, how are you doing on this free agent frenzy extravaganza Wednesday special thing?
I'm doing great, man. It's a great day when you get to, have a conversation and talk to the Bills Mafia, and then there's a lot going on in free agency. So that's always a great thing for a football junkie like myself.
That's right. Things were going crazy, a little weird at first on the first day, and then things started going crazy, and now the signings are coming all over the place. We got some stuff for the Bills to talk about. We have got some stuff for other people like the Patriots, all that kind of stuff. But let's be honest. The news I think that everyone wants to talk about when it comes to free agency and the Buffalo Bills is just when you thought it was safe to buy a Corey Bojorquez jersey, they kicked that guy to the curb, man. And they signed Matt Hawk from the Miami Dolphins. And I got to tell you, I'm disappointed. I am.
It's like Corey Bojorquez was like a fan favorite. And that's the thing with Bills Mafia. They have players that are like fan favorites. And you know what? Corey Bojorquez was like expendable because he really didn't even punt like that. Honestly, the Bills was scoring almost every drive. I mean, essentially almost every drive this year. So he wasn't really punting like that. So why not go and get a cheaper punter if you're not even really punting like that?
Yeah, I understand like why they did it when I looked at the stats and stuff. But I think the one thing that was really redeeming about Corey B was his ability, man, to just hit those rockets, really kind of flip the field for the Bills, And I understand that Hawk's a little better with the touchbacks and all that stuff, but man, Corey B, man, was booming those kicks. And just when I had gotten, well, not me personally, I guess Corey B himself had gotten all the haters, all the podcast community haters to come around, they get rid of him and kick him to the curb. Disappointing, to say the least. But anyway, no one really wants to talk about the punter.
Yeah. I just want to say, though, before you move on, he was PFF's 13th highest graded punter, though, so I'll throw that in there. And that's pretty good. Punting grade of a 70, and that's actually top-notch, so he's a good punter.
So we're looking for a Zach Ertz trade. I think that's what we're kind of all looking for right now to add to what the Bills have already done, which is re-sign Matt Milano, re-sign Darrell Williams, re-sign John Feliciano, cut Quentin Jefferson, cut John Brown, do a couple restructures, sign Emmanuel Sanders, which we'll get to in a second, and they managed to trade Lee Smith.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is a guy who was going to retire, and then they just trade. I mean, I don't know. I guess, I don't know what. I mean, it's probably like a 7th round pick or something, right? I mean, nothing crazy.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yep, 7th round. Yeah, I mean, listen, that was another shrewd move by Wizard Bean, man. Getting a player that's going to retire for a 7th round pick. And hey, you never know. A 7th round pick may be as good as Tom Brady. So it's a great move. That's true. You know what I mean? Like the uncertainty. I'd rather have the uncertainty around the pick than the certainty of him retiring. You know what I mean? Like it's a great move.
Right. I mean, Brandon Beane's done that. He did that obviously to the Patriots. I think the Marshall Newhouse trade. He's traded a few offensive linemen. Obviously, the Wyatt Teller thing maybe didn't work out exactly in hindsight the greatest, but it got us some draft picks. Whatever. Not going to worry about it. So let's talk about Emmanuel Sanders. I mean, this is a guy, they cut John Brown, lost probably a little bit of speed, but I think they got probably the better overall wide receiver. What are your thoughts? This tournament season, take care of your hair and holes with the best tools for the job.
We're talking about our sponsors, Manscaped, the global leaders in male grooming from head to toe. When the clock winds down in March, be clutch and avoid the upset with the Manscaped Performance Package to keep all your hair and holes tamed. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. Join the Manscaped movement and start taking care of your balls today with 20% off and free shipping by going to manscaped.com and using code BRAWL for our exclusive offer. Your bracket isn't supposed to be perfect, but with the Manscaped Performance Package, you can be confident that your nose, ear, and ball pubes are. The Manscaped Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle and #1 overall seed this season. Included in this package is the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. It provides proprietary skin-safe technology which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. Look, fellas, 79% of partners polled admitted that long nose hair is a major turnoff. Why not use the best tools for the job here? This amazing bundle also includes the Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer, the best trimmer on the market for your balls, butt, and body. It checks every box for a Final Four run. Let's not forget their famous liquid formulations, the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and Crop Reviver Ball Toner to maximize your ball hygiene routine and keep you fresh, ready for anything. Get the Performance Package now to receive their 2 free gift, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. Another favorite of mine are their Crop Mop Wipes, cool and refreshing ball, butt, and body wipes for peak male hygiene and extra care where it matters most. Your purchase goes towards a good cause because they partnered with the GOAT, Alex Caruso, and the Testicular Cancer Society to bring awareness to testicular cancer, men's health, and early cancer detection. Manscaped is committed to raising awareness for the most common form of cancer in men aged 15 to 35 and giving support to fighters, survivors, and families impacted by testicular cancer as part of their We Save Balls initiative. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BRAWL at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code BRAWL. When things get hairy, make sure to call on Manscaped in clutch time.
Yeah, signing Emmanuel Sanders was a great move. He is 34, or he turned 34 today, actually. Today's his birthday. He turned 34, but one thing we know about Emmanuel Sanders, man, that guy can run his routes like a dog, man. Like, he has that attention to detail that you look for in an older wide receiver, and he's only going to help Josh. Buffalo has shown in the past couple years that they have loved to sign receivers that just can create separation. And you can never have too many of these guys that can just go out and create separation. You don't have to be, and I was trying to explain this to somebody else the other day, you don't have to be super fast to create separation. You just got to be able to have the detail to run your routes and get out of those routes efficiently. Right. And that's what Emmanuel Sanders brings to this offense. So you got Gabe Davis, Diggs, Beasley. I just named 3 of the highest, separators, in the NFL. And he also came off of a year where he was playing with Drew Brees, not at 100%, but he was playing with Drew Brees, and he put up pretty decent numbers. So this signing for, what was it, $1 million, for 1 year, $6 million, with $500K in incentives. So I think that's a perfect deal, for him at a guy that's 34 who still has some left in the tank. You're not asking him to be the number 2. You're just asking him to make plays when he's called upon, and I think he can do that. Yeah,
I mean, the Bills, I think it's not crazy to say they have 3 of the top 10, 12 route runners in the league. Mm-hmm. And then you throw in Gabe Davis, who certainly is good along the sideline. Yeah, there's some things he needs to work on. I think we talked about that a little bit, but certainly a guy who adds something. He's probably the best number 4 receiver in the league, I'd say. You throw in, Dawson Knox developing. Maybe they get Zach Ertz, which we mentioned. Who knows? But I mean, and this is a guy too. This is a guy who's played a lot of playoff games. He's won a Super Bowl. He's played with great quarterbacks. And I think that that's going to help Josh as well. This is a guy who played with Peyton Manning. He played with Ben Roethlisberger. He's played for, Kyle Shanahan. This is like a guy who's got a lot of experience, playoffs with good offensive coaches. And I think that's something that we can't underemphasize.
Yes, I was going to mention that too in my last segment, that I was definitely going to mention that he played with Peyton Manning. He's played with Ben Roethlisberger. He's played with Drew Brees. Like, he's played with great quarterbacks, so he knows what to do. He knows what's expected of him, and he will make the tough catches. He will be there as a security blanket for Josh. And again, this is just Buffalo, adding weapons again. He graded out as a 74.6 for PFF, and also a 74.9 for his receiving grade, for his route running. So, I mean, he still has some left in the tank at 34. Honestly, if I'm being honest with myself, I think he's an upgrade over John Brown. Like you said, don't have the top end speed like John Brown, but what he doesn't have in speed anymore, he has in clutch catches, tenacity, savvy, and he'll help Josh. And I like this move. It's another great move by Brandon Beane.
So let's talk a little bit about tight ends. Let's stay on the offensive side of the ball. I know you were big on Gerald Everett. He's gone. Mm-hmm. So what's your thoughts about a potential Zach Ertz trade?
Yeah, I was on the Gerald Everett train. That was the one player, that watching the Rams that was just very underutilized. And if he got more opportunities, he probably could have been that number one tight end for him. But, it is what it is. And I thought it would have been perfect for Buffalo to give him a 1 year, because he got a 1 year, $6 million deal, $7 million deal, but a $6 million guarantee. And I think that would have been perfect for the Bills, because it wouldn't have basically costed them anything, but they would have got high end production for 1 year. But, a potential trade for Zach Ertz, it would definitely take this offense to another level. Zach Ertz, that's if Zach Ertz is healthy, and that's been Zach Ertz's biggest problem the past couple of years, is that, besides the lack of consistency from Carson Wentz and the lack of consistency from the offensive line due to injuries, he's been hurt himself. He was up there talked about as some of the best tight ends in the league, maybe top 5, arguably. But, when you get hit by the injury bug, and your quarterback gets hit by the injury bug, and you also have a bad offensive line, it's going to be tough for you to produce on a per-snap basis. And that's kind of what I think happened to Ertz. So I think if he could come here, first and foremost, get healthy, and then secondly, create a rapport with Josh, I think he could be an asset and a cog to not only Josh Allen in the offense, but to Dawson Knox, the tight end that'll be alongside of him, show him how to run routes, show him what it takes to be a great tight end, give him the ins and outs. I mean, these guys, they talk and they know it from a player's perspective, what it takes to be consistent on a per-snap, per-game basis. So he would have helped in that aspect, and if they are able to pull this trade off, I would really like it.
Yeah, I think that the Eagles just kind of fell apart. And in the situation there, listening to some of the podcasts from Philadelphia, the whole situation while Doug Peterson was there was so bizarre. Like, they had Frank Reich do like third down play calling and play scheming, and they had some other guy for the red zone, and Doug Peterson didn't really do much of that, and just a lot of weird dynamics going on behind the scenes. And once Frank Reich left, Carson Wentz, just really wasn't himself. Himself, I guess, is, a bit strong, but they just fell apart. And yeah, when you're a receiver on that team and all those things happen that you mentioned, how is your production gonna stay at the level it was at? I mean, I say this all the time, and it sounds obvious, but receiver production is predicated on quarterback play. It's a symbiotic relationship. People say all the time, well, how come this guy doesn't have more targets? Whatever the case may be. It's like, well, I mean, because the quarterback didn't throw him the ball more. I mean, I understand he's got to catch it and run, but you can't have more catches than you had targets. And so a guy like Ertz, right, he's hurt. Maybe you think he's washed up, but that's because the offense, like you said, was crappy that he played in eventually. So good for the team. Certainly if you're getting the leadership of Lee Smith out and the leadership of Zach Ertz in, I think that's a win.
Yeah. And I was just on a podcast Monday with Mookie Hawkins, and he was talking about like how underrated, Lee Smith's, and anybody in the Bills locker room who's viewed as a leader, like that leadership, like how underrated that is for people's development. Because we had a conversation about, the backup quarterback and Matt Barkley, and I was asked a question of whether I feel like this is just to correlate the 2 points. This is they're asking me about Matt Barkley and like, do I feel comfortable with him? And it's just like Mookie was saying, like, well, Josh is comfortable with him, and the coaching staff is comfortable with him, and the locker room's comfortable with him. So if they're that comfortable with him, and bring us another guy in wouldn't be the best move for the locker room. Maybe you could get a better guy and he'll be good on the field, but since they're comfortable with him in the locker room, that will translate to the field. And that's the same thing I'm saying about Lee Smith. He may not have been the biggest contributor, you know what I mean, but he was great for the locker room. And then since he was great for the locker room, he was great for everyone else on the field. So that will definitely be missed. And Zach Ertz is going to have to earn his stripes on this team, just like anybody else that's coming up from the outside. You see like a lot of players that Buffalo has re-signed of their own wants to stay here because they have cultivated a culture and they want to, see it through to win a Super Bowl. They were one game away. So I don't see why they wouldn't leave. But, people are taking cheaper deals, to stay and to try to win. And Lee Smith was, I don't want to even say a solid addition, but, he was a locker room addition that helped. He'll be missed in the locker room, but, they can get better. They got a 7th-round pick for it, which I think is more than fair compensation. So his presence will definitely be missed.
You mentioned the re-signings, and I don't know. I don't know. I saw you were carrying the water on the running back conversation there for a while. And I had quite the adventure on Twitter myself with the Mafia about the John Feliciano and Matt Milano signings. I think I had a 14-hour running battle because I said I did not like the Matt Milano re-signing, and I did not like the John Feliciano re-signing, and that kind of took up my weekend, which is fine. What are your thoughts? Because my context, and this is something you and I talk about, is I was like, okay, they're going to run it back. Great. Yeah. Like, that's not what I want. I don't want them to run it back. Like, I want different stuff. Yeah, not everything different, but some stuff different. So what's your thoughts about that?
And see, goes back to my point about the locker room. You know what I mean? Like, they have cultivated. Milano is a guy that was drafted by the Bills, and this is all he knows is Buffalo. And he took less money to stay and to try to win a championship and run it back. Now, I said this on our last podcast, but I'm going to say it again now that we're live, and I hope people are listening to me. Players only see an average of 68% of their total contract. There is an article that I read by PFF's Brad Spielberg that breaks down how contracts work. And this is going to my point about both signings. So it says that, a player may reportedly sign for $100 million, but he will only see 68% of it. All that matters is the guaranteed money. That is literally all that matters, is the guaranteed money, the money you will get at the time you sign your contract. So in Milano, in Feliciano's case, Milano signed a deal for 4 years, $41.5 million, and that's $10.38 million APY, right? So his contract is very incentive laden, meaning that he has to earn the extra money that he is going to see in that contract. He got, I think it was like $24 million guaranteed. I think that's what he got.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, he got $24 million guaranteed. So that other portion of his contract, all he has to earn. So he has to make the Pro Bowl. He has to stay on the field a bunch of more times in his contract. He has to make All Pro. Like, whatever incentives they laid in there, he has to meet those. And it's a high probability that he might not meet all of those. So Buffalo can recoup some of that money that's in that, and it goes back to Buffalo. It doesn't count against him. Just because you sign for a number, that doesn't mean you're going to see that whole number. And that's going to Feliciano also. He got 3 years, $17 million. I don't remember how much he got as a guarantee.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but he probably won't see all of that $17 million. So to bring both points together, research what these contracts. Research what Brandon Beane did. He made a lot of their contracts incentive laden because he wants them to earn their money. And if you were as good as you say you are, like Feliciano was going on and on about how he didn't give up a sack or something like that, go and earn your money. Earn your $17 million. And Brandon Beane has done it. And that's just a testament to what I've been saying, at the beginning, that Brandon Beane is a wizard when it comes to these contracts, when it comes to these signings, of just putting them in a way where they're fair and they're also what's best for the Buffalo Bills. And so with John Feliciano and Matt Milano signing, I love both the signings because it wasn't too much, and most of their contracts are all incentive-based, and they have to go out and earn their money.
Want to get in on the action? Thanks to our partnership with DraftKings, new users can play free fantasy sports with a first-time deposit. Here's how it works. Create your new DraftKings DFS account, play free fantasy sports with your first-time deposit, compete against others and rack up points as you compete for first place. Enter now. This offer won't be around forever. Just go to dkng.co/brawl to get these rewards. That's dkng.co/brawl. Act quickly. This won't be around forever. Minimum $5 deposit. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Yeah, my thing is I understand why they did it. And at the beginning of the year, I was totally on board with Milano. I thought that they almost had to re-sign him because we always talk about process. And he's a 5th-round pick, worked himself into the lineup, was playing at a high level. That's process. So to me, with your mention of the locker room, I look at it as like they almost had to sign him. And then this year went on, he got hurt again. And my point, I guess, is I understand. I'm not even like upset about the contract. I just think that like the skill set with Milano, you can get it in the draft. Feliciano's like an average guard. Like, I understand like they played better a little bit when he was in, but that doesn't mean that he's, Quentin Nelson. It just means that he was better than whoever else was there. So I just wanted those positions upgraded. I was a little worried about Matt Milano's injuries, but I understand the Bills' perspective and why they did it. Like, I get that. I'm just saying, in my personal opinion, I didn't want them to, but I get it. And your point about guarantees, it's not even that anymore. I mean, that's the thing to say, right? It's only the guaranteed money. Well, look at Kyle Van Noy from Miami. Like, they cut him and they were able to avoid $10 million in guarantees because they cut him. So it's not even guaranteed money anymore, because a lot of it is, okay, well, his 2023 salary is going to guarantee on April 1st in 2022. And if you cut him before then, that money doesn't become, it's not guaranteed. So, right. I mean, these guys won't see all that money probably. But I just wanted your thoughts because, like I said, I had this very long battle.
It's just about explaining stuff to Bills Mafia. I figured out this week that a lot of people in the Bills Mafia, and I love you guys, and I tell you guys all the time, I love the Bills Mafia. But a lot of you guys don't watch tape, and you guys don't do a lot of research. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean that as in, like, you guys should do your
yeah.
I mean, there's so many resources that you guys can use over the cap, spot track, like where you can see players' whole salary breakdowns, how much they're going to get, how much they count against the cap. Like, you guys, if this is your favorite team, I would want to know everything about my team. Follow the Bills Wire, like any of these guys that will help you guys understand what's going on with your favorite players. So I would encourage Bills Mafia to do more research on these players' contracts, what they're getting, how they count against the cap. Do your research. That is my biggest thing with Bills Mafia, is too many times the Mafia is enamored with the people, with the actual people.
Right.
Not their play on the field. You're enamored with them as people. Like, you guys love Trey White, you guys love Isaiah McKenzie as characters and people, and that supersedes everything else. And it's just like, again, as I made the comparison with John Brown, you guys rather see John Brown not on this team, and y'all rather see the Bills in the Super Bowl. I promise you that. So,
yeah, and
that's all I'm asking.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was on with the Built in Buffalo guys last night, and there were some people kind of, coming at me because I did my whole Matt Milano thing and that kind of thing. And that's kind of a point I tried to emphasize. And after I got off that, I actually talked to my wife and I said, man, like, there's these, I wish they would do more. Right. And I said, but I used to be that fan, right? Like, I used to, and it's fine if you are that fan. Like, some people want to get their Bills coverage from a very high in the sky view. They want to watch the game. It's a break from the regular work week. It's a break from your kids. You get to hang out with your buddies, whatever, tailgate, order some pizzas. And then they don't want to, they don't want to dive in deep because they've got other things to do. And that's fine. Like, I don't know how many Bills fans there are. Millions, right? I mean, probably. Mm-hmm. Like, so for the most part, most people just want to be at that level, and that's fine. The point that I made and that my wife and I were talking about is that's great. But if you're going to get into a conversation about the Bills on Twitter or on Instagram or wherever it is, and you're going to get mad at somebody who really does spend a lot of time doing research and watching film, I mean, you just got to understand that it's not, I don't know how to say it. It's not personal, but like, what we're here for. We're just looking at the Bills in a more in-depth way. And that's all it is.
And I only brought up that point because I had a conversation yesterday with Bills Mafia all yesterday, and I love it. I'm here for it. At eDaniel77, you guys see my tag. Come holla at me about Bills football. I'm here for all it takes. But this specific take was about Isaiah McKenzie. And there's too many of you guys in Bills Mafia that's sitting here clamoring for. He's probably going to come back because that's what Mookie Hawkins said on our podcast on Monday. That pretty much everyone's coming back. So everyone is telling me that they should sign Isaiah McKenzie back because he wants. You guys think he should be utilized more. And this is what the Mafia said. This is not what I'm saying. This is what your fellow members of the Mafia are saying because he wants to be utilized more. So I asked him. I said, how should he be utilized then? They said, well, we should utilize him more on jet sweeps. I said. Jet sweeps. I said the Bills don't even run that many jet sweeps like that. Well, if they ran more, the offense would be more potent. I said they were in the fourth. They were the fourth highest graded offense in the league. Like, how much more potent do you want them to be? Well, if they ran Isaiah McKenzie more on jet sweeps, they'd be more potent. Isaiah McKenzie running on jet sweeps isn't going to take them from fourth highest graded to like first, second, or third. You know what I mean? They only run jet sweeps like what? 3 times a game? Not even that, like twice.
Right.
And I said this because look at how the Rams run jet sweeps. The Rams are the most effective team in the last 2 years on jet sweeps, right? And I said the Rams do not take a special receiver and bring him in on just to run a jet sweep because that would make you predictable. A coach would catch on to that. You know, and I said, look at how they run jet sweeps. They either run Kupp off one or they run Woods off one. They don't bring a special receiver in to run a jet sweep because, again, like I just said, that makes them predictable. So this whole rationale about Isaiah McKenzie staying for Buffalo just to run jet sweeps, that doesn't make any sense because he wouldn't justify getting a contract that worked. Now, if we were adding kick returning and punt returning to what his other responsibilities are, okay. But he's already had an opportunity to do that. And so I'm only saying this and to make a point about you guys love these people as personalities, but you guys don't actually research what they do on the field. And then you guys question the people who actually do research like, oh, what the heck do y'all know? He was mad dynamic. The Miami game is one game where it was at the end of the season and they gave him his opportunity and he definitely snapped. But what about the Baltimore game? What about the Colts game? What about the Chiefs game? The games that actually counted and mattered. Where was he then? So that's only my only point. You guys, I want y'all to do research on what Isaiah McKenzie actually does on the field to help Buffalo. He's a very limited player. He has speed, but speed doesn't automatically equate to you being a great player. Look at John Ross. Look at Tavon Austin. It doesn't equate to you being a great player. And that's the only reason why I bring up, that point about you guys don't do research because I've seen this take persist through the offseason. Yeah,
I agree. And there's and that's, fan is short for fanatic, obviously. And I think that there's a thing where, if you're saying that somebody could do better or whatever, it means you don't like them. And I know we like to say this every podcast. I don't want to harp on this for too long, but it's not that you don't like them. I don't like Feliciano, but whatever. But it's not necessarily. It's just that you study the game more in depth. So going off to Isaiah McKenzie point, Andre Roberts is gone. So, is this Isaiah McKenzie? Are they going to draft a guy? It doesn't seem like they're going to sign a guy, at least not right now, maybe a month from now. What do they do? Because that's an important position.
Here's some news. Justin Mello from the Draft Network dropped in my PFF Bills inbox yesterday that they are talking to Avery Williams from Boise State, who is a kick returner, punt returner, and he has 9 career punt return and kick returns in his 3 years in college, and that's pretty significant. So there you go. The Bills are talking to a kick returner, punt returner for drafting.
Well, there you go, right? At least they know, right? Obviously they know. It's not like they didn't know, but you know what I'm saying? I'm sure they have a plan
about it.
Right. And that's the other thing too is I want people to have a plan. I don't just want to sign this guy or not sign this guy, let him go, and then the team's like, well, I don't know. That's not ideal. So obviously that's a thing. Is there anything? The Bills have been, I don't want to say they've been quiet, but obviously they didn't have a lot of money. They re-signed a lot of their own guys. Is there anything you want to mention? Because I know there's the Patriots have signed like everybody. The Jets have signed some guys. I think we should at least certainly talk about the Patriots. Is there anything else about the Bills right now that you want to talk to, or we can circle back to it in a little while?
Yeah, I just want to bring the moves in totality into focus for the Bills Mafia. Aaron Quinn from Cover One, who is my guy, and if he's watching this, I want him to preface this by saying that you are my guy, and I want
Hi, Aaron,
no smoke.
If you're watching,
I say I want no smoke. I just want to say, I think it was him who said that continuity doesn't matter as much. I think it was him. It was somebody from Cover One. I can't remember who it was, but I think it was Aaron.
Well, I know Eric Eric Turner had a tweet about offensive line continuity.
Okay, yeah, it was Eric. My bad.
And then
I know
there was a thread. Yeah, hi Eric. Hi, if you're watching.
It was Eric. Right. It was Eric. Eric said continuity doesn't matter. I would highly disagree with you, because if continuity didn't matter, why would the Bills pretty much bring back their whole roster? If continuity didn't matter, continuity definitely matters on the O-line, because they do tape breakdowns and they have to watch how the offensive line moves. Like, communication on the offensive line is so vital to blocking and twist and stunts and blitzers. Communication is important. And if you do not have that continuity across the line, that stuff cannot be executed well. So I would disagree that continuity doesn't matter. It does matter, and it's valued by Buffalo. So none of the moves that they made are splash moves, but they're continuous moves. And Buffalo will not have to worry about coming out of the gate sluggish or lethargic, and they can just go. They can just go running, And to my next point, they can also implement this run game. Now that they have the same O-line back, now that they know what type of scheme they're most effective on, which is zone, and now that Coach McDermott wants to run the ball more, and Brandon Beane has expressed that they want to run the ball more, they're going to be able, since they're so continuous, they're going to be able to get that running game correct. So these are great moves. These are awesome moves for them, improving the continuity of the team even further and building a culture of success towards winning, because everybody is so familiar with each other.
I wonder how fine the line is for that, right? Like, their continuity is great, but at the same time, at some point, you do have to have talented players, right? Like they talk about all the time with coaching. Like, people would say, well, the Bills keep firing their coaches. And it's like, well, having continuity with Dick Duran really isn't what we were going for. It's having continuity with Sean McDermott is what we're shooting for here. So I wonder how fine the line is to your point and to his point on the offensive line. Is continuity is great, but at some point, do you? And maybe that's something they do next year, right? As you said, work on the run game. They worked on the pass game a ton last year. Work on the run game this year. Run it back more or less on the line. And if there's still a problem, then maybe, next year they've really got to attack the interior of the line, because obviously running it back wasn't the answer. And I guess before we move on to the Patriots, it does seem like they're running it back for the most part. So what's the solution then? And we'll get into this, I'm sure, in training camp but in way more in depth. But so what's the solution then? How do you beat the Chiefs? And we don't know if they haven't done the draft. Maybe they're going to draft 7 defensive backs in the draft. Who knows? But right now, how are we bridging that gap? I'm not sure. What do you think? Or is it too soon to make that determination?
I have been cited many times on this podcast saying that to beat the Chiefs, you have to get faster on the back end. And that take was said yesterday by when the Patriots, to go segue into the Patriots, when they made all these moves, I said, now you guys are saying that you need more speed on the back end. When I've been saying this since the Chiefs game last year, that they need more speed on the back end. That includes Poyer and High also. They are great in coverage, don't get me wrong. But to match up with the Chiefs, that's what they needed to. Number one, they need to get more speed on the back end. You sign Levi Wallace back. You're talking about Dane Jackson competing. They've been talking about Greg Newsome from Northwestern in the draft. Asante Samuel Jr. has been mocked to the Bills. 2 fast corners. Greg Newsome just ran a 4.3. So, there's cornerbacks out there. There's DBs out there that the Bills can draft, even in the second and third round, that's going to give them more speed on the back end. But that's number one, how you beat the Chiefs. Number 2 is you keep them off the field. And the Bills could not do that. They could not execute an effective run game to chew up some clock, keep them off the field, limit their possessions. They were not able to do that. So how do you improve your run game? Like Charlie said, number one, you can bring back your O-line, a continuous O-line, and work on your run game in the offseason like they did with the passing game, or you can upgrade your interior. Who's to say that they still won't draft, guards in the later rounds? Because this draft is deep with guards. And that's how you improve. You sign Bodiger, you tender Bodiger, and you sign back Feliciano, but that's not going to stop me from adding more depth on the O-line. So, there's still more moves to be made, but those are the two key things of how you beat a high-power offense. Match them speed for speed, and then keep them off the field. And the Bills weren't able to do either one of those, and that's the formula. That's the formula how to beat them.
All right. The Patriots, we're still on Zach Ertz watch. And before we get the Patriots real quick, obviously, I want to mention our sponsors, Manscaped, DraftKings, code BRAWL. They got some really good deals going on for you guys there. If you're listening to this on Thursday, the ad reads will be in there. I'll put them in there. The Patriots have signed, as I mentioned, it feels like everybody. And there's a lot of speculation, a lot of trash talk towards Bill Belichick about how this is a reaction to Tom Brady and all kinds of stuff. And the truth is that their roster was trash, really. Right. So, but some of the stuff they've done to me is just weird. These two wide receivers they signed, I don't think are the greatest ever. 2 tight ends, which is that's really, really great. They re-signed Cam, and I guess this doesn't predicate them from trading up for a quarterback or something in the draft. But if I'm a Patriots fan, I didn't want to see Cam come back. I don't know. What do you think of all this? They spent so much money, which is uncharacteristic of them, and it seems like it's kind of all over the place.
So with the Patriots, like you said, they haven't been big spenders in free agency the last couple of years, but their situation drastically changed. So since their situation drastically changed, they had to make drastic moves. There was reports yesterday that I was reading that the Patriots have been planning this since last year to have this much cap space to make these moves. So they already knew what was up. They already knew that they needed to improve this roster, and that's what they did. Now, everyone hates, they signed Jonnu. They signed Hunter Henry. We started there. Those are solid moves. Those are 2 tight ends that can win against one-on-one coverage and can make plays after the catch. If Hunter Henry can stay healthy, that is a solid 1-2 punch at tight end, reminiscent of Gronkowski and Hernandez. It's clearly what they're trying to do again, is recreate that magic. So I don't hate any of those moves. I don't hate the money that they got. Again, we just talked about in the last segment, just because a player signs for $50 million doesn't mean they're going to see all that. So they signed. So they got Jonnu got 31 and a quarter guaranteed, and Hunter Henry got $25 million guaranteed. So that tells me that they are going to be huge cogs in this offense. So I like that. So now we go to wide receiver. They signed Nelson Aguilar. They signed Kendrick Bourne. Nelson Aguilar led the NFL in deep touchdowns last year. He got better, but no one wants to hear that because of what he'd done previously in Philly. And I understand that he was drops a lot in Philly. We know this. But he got better, so you have to give him a benefit of the doubt. He can stretch the field. So, I don't hate this signing. It's not the biggest, splashiest signing, but it's a field stretcher. They have Jacoby Myers, who's a solid slot receiver. They signed Kendrick Bourne. He doesn't suck. $22.5 million. That's a lot, but they doesn't list how much guaranteed money he's got. And so, again, he probably is not going to see all that money either. But, I see why they signed him. He has potential to be, really good in my opinion. And then on top of that, what is stopping them from drafting more from wide receivers or drafting other players? They still have draft picks. They're still, moving around and acquiring more picks to improve their roster. Who's to say that they won't trade up for a quarterback? They still have more moves to make. They still have more, they're probably going to make a splash in the draft. That's what these moves say to me. Like, we're giving big money to these people because they gave big money to Judon too. Matthew Judon, they gave him $56 million with 32 guaranteed. So, they are making strategic moves. The Bills should be worried. And this is a hot take. And so I'm going to say it. So Charlie, I want your opinion on this.
All right.
I said currently, as the Bills roster is currently constructed, I do not think they have the pieces to match up with them in the passing game currently.
You mean
in terms of the Bills matching up with the Patriots
defensively or offensively?
Defensively. Offensively, there's no question. The offense is straight. I don't even need to talk about the offense. It's the defense. It's the Bills' defense matching up with these 2 tight ends and the speed that they have. And that goes back to my other point about them needing speed on the back end. Like, currently constructed, I don't know if they could stop Jonnu and Hunter Henry both.
Yeah, I didn't think about that because my first thought when I saw this was you forget that how many guys opted out for them. One of them, McCourty brothers, right? Like Hightower. I mean, they're getting like 5 defensive starters back from opt-outs. They signed Judon. They still, got Gilmore. Their defense has the potential. Winovich. They drafted all these guys, like Duggar, all kinds of crazy linebacker, safety guys last year, like hybrid defensive ends. Their defense could be a top 5 defense with the talent that they've added over the last 2 years and with the guys coming back from opt-outs. So for me, I'm kind of like, this is a problem for the Bills offense in the sense that they've got so much on defense. But to your point about the Bills defense, yeah, they've got 2 things. Most teams have 1 thing that the Bills are horrible at stopping in the passing game. Well, the Patriots have 2. That's a problem. And so Brandon Beane says the first thing that they always want to do is win the division. That's the first thing they do when they look at the moves that they make. Okay, so then I should expect to see you figure out a way to stop 2 tight ends from the Patriots. Is Hamza in the future? Whoever. I mean, I don't know, but if you're telling the truth, then we should see corresponding moves from the Bills on the defensive side, especially the second level and the third level, that are going to address this, unless their thing is okay, well, Cam Newton isn't what he used to be. We can just get to him before he throws the football. Yeah, I'm not sure, but they got to answer this with something.
It's even with Cam, though, and speaking about Cam specifically, I mean, you think about when the Patriots were great, right? The Patriots had Tom Brady, who was definitely accurate underneath. He could go deep, but, pretty much the Patriots were a dink and dunk team, a lot of option routes, a lot of tight ends, making plays across the field, a lot of yak, and they kind of are recreating that. They don't need Cam to be a super deep ball thrower, and honestly, if you look at Cam's numbers last year, he wasn't bad on deep throws last year. Look at that deep throw he had the last game against Buffalo. It was a pinpoint pass and it was dropped, and I go back and forth with people. I'm like, you guys say that Cam's washed up. You guys say his arm is shot and all this other mess, but it's just like, look at that last pass. Like, he had some zip on that pass and he can get it out there. But I mean, when you have nobody that can separate at a high level, I mean, what do you want him to do? People were saying 2 years ago that Brady was washed and Brady's arm was shot, all this other stuff 2 years ago with the same batch of weapons. But when Cam get these same batch of weapons, probably worse, now Cam's washed. Now Cam can't do it. Now we don't. But I mean, you're not putting talent around him. And obviously Bill Belichick saw that, and they're starting to put talent around him. And now we'll see what Cam can do. And if he looks the same way that he did last year, then all right, we have a conversation now. But if you can't devoid a quarterback of high end weapons and expect them to produce at the same level, which is why Tom Brady went to a place where they have all high end weapons across the field, and look how much better Brady looks. He led the NFL in big time throws, which are throws of 20+ yards and more. After you guys were saying his arm was shot, so something has to give. Something has to make these moves. Something has to correspond these moves. So speaking about Cam specifically, man, let's see how he looks when he has better weapons around him. I'm not advocating for Cam. I'm just saying you can't sit here and accurately judge him when they don't have many guys on the field that can create plays on their own or create a lot of separation.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think one other thing that has happened, I think late last night and then today, which has to do with the AFC East, at least partially, is there's been a lot of really weird, I don't know weird, but the quarterback market has been goofy. It's like all kinds of guys were signing in the last 24 hours, and all this news is coming out. The Dolphins signed Jacoby Brissett, which is, I guess, Tua insurance, which is, I mean, I guess that's almost a different conversation of how do you feel of how they're handling Tua. There's a lot of stuff, is Deshaun Watson going to be moved? what's going to happen with Sam Darnold and the Jets? The Jets made a couple moves that I don't think they're going to, make them really that much better, but they're trying to support a young quarterback, whether that is Sam or Justin Fields or Trey Lance or Zach Wilson or, Sam Englinger, maybe whoever they draft. What are your thoughts about the whole, the quarterback market? Wilson too is upset. All these guys are upset, and then and the destination, at least for Watson, seems to be Miami or New York. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on this year.
Yeah, the quarterback market is definitely what I wouldn't say it's heating up, but it's definitely been weird and quirky these last couple of days. Russell Wilson was not happy in his current situation, and he was about to be traded to the Bears, but the Bears didn't have enough, and they knew they didn't have enough. When the Bears
Andy
tried to make
Dalton,
this move,
baby.
Hey, listen. Not to get off track, but Andy Dalton is not a starter, but he's most certainly an upgrade for Mitchell Trubisky. I'll say that much. You can say what you want about him, he a backup or whatever, but they didn't have any other options that were going to be adequate, and at least Andy Dalton will at least be able to get you. I don't know. I think he could have did better than Mitchell Trubisky in that playoff game. I think so.
Oh, but, I think he's better than Mitch. Yeah, I would say.
I mean, so you guys are crying about he's a backup, but I mean they didn't have any other options. And then Watson, as far as Watson goes, I mean I'd be fighting like hell to keep him in Houston, and that's what they're doing, and they should be doing that. You know what I mean? I know he said he's not coming back, but they should be fighting like crazy to keep him there, but it just doesn't seem it's going to work out. So the draft is more than a month away, so I'd be working hard to get the biggest trade package I could possibly get. But he came out and said today that the only teams he wants to play for are San Francisco and Denver, which I like. I mean, if he went to both those teams, I like that.
Yeah,
but
I mean that's weird, right? Like, because he was saying, maybe this is a false, but he was saying he wanted to go to Miami, and now it's San Francisco and Denver. And,
I mean, people were reporting that he wanted to go to Miami.
I
don't think he said that. Like, people were like prognosticating, like, oh, he might want to go to Miami because he could start over tour or something like that. But he finally came out himself and said, hey, I only want to play for San Francisco or Denver. Denver has a bevy of weapons, and if they ever got a quarterback that was halfway better than Drew Lock, they'd be dangerous. And we already know what's up with San Francisco and Kyle Shanahan and that system.
Oh man,
and the bevy of weapons that they have. So we know what's going on there. But to specifically speak to the Jacoby Brissett signing, somebody actually inboxed me yesterday, and because I said that I put starter with question marks when they signed Jacoby Brissett, and I'm right there with you, Charlie. I'm like, that tells me that if Tua start that BS that he was doing last year, Brian Flores is not going to hesitate to yank him out of there. He did it twice last year, mid-game now. Mid-game, he yanked him. So he ain't going to hesitate to do it now, and Jacoby Brissett going to have to be ready literally every game like he's going to start. I know that's what the adage is all the time, like a backup should prepare like the starter, but sometimes you know that when you're going to get in and when you're going to not. But this time, Jacoby Brissett has a realistic shot to play on a week-in, week-out basis. And so that one-year deal for him is like, yo, be ready because I could yank Tua out at any time. And this lights a fire under Tua. I'm not using that fact that he was a rookie and all that other mess that everybody want to use to give his excuses. There's plenty of quarterbacks that was good. Joe Burrow was good before he got hurt. He was a rookie. Justin Herbert had one of the best rookie seasons in the NFL history. So that with the worst O-line in the league. So, I mean, I'm not using the fact that he was a rookie as an excuse. So, I mean, this quarterback it's been weird. His quarterback market's been weird, man.
Imagine being a Miami fan, right? And you hear about is Tua. You draft Tua, right? And then like he does okay, but then he's getting pulled for Fitzpatrick and all kinds of weird stuff. And my personal thing is you just leave him in there, let him learn. Like, I don't know, you tried to make the playoffs and you failed because you didn't want to leave Fitzpatrick in and you wanted to play Tua, but then all of a sudden you wanted to play Fitzpatrick again. And then you're going to say, well, winning breeds whatever. Well, not if he's not in the game.
Right.
I mean, like, if he's not in the game to experience those moments, how much is he really learning? So I think that Flores is kind of mismanaging the situation. But imagine being a Miami fan and you're getting a first, and then what happens if they trade for Watson? And now, you spend a first round on Tua. Now you're trading multiple, at least 3, it sounds like, for Watson. I mean, that's not that you would be mad that you had Watson, but what a roller coaster of a ride for Miami fans. Just, you get the guy that everyone tells you want, and then the guy can't stay on the field. And you're looking at Herbert like, man, why didn't we draft that guy? Right.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to expect what Herbert did out of Tua. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. I mean, he has a better team around him than Herbert has. Herbert literally had the worst O-line in the league. They are going to rebuild that O-line. They have already signed 2 O-line pieces. They can only go up from here, but, Tua's line was actually a little bit better than Herbert's line. He has better weapons holistically. I mean, I know they have a high-end receiver in Keenan Allen, and Hunter Henry wasn't really on the field like that, but, Tua, for the most part, had a better team than Justin Herbert, so it's not far-fetched to expect him to play better. And like I said, I'm not using that fact that he's a rookie as an excuse. The speed of the game goes the same for everybody. He's came from a good program in Alabama where they were playing with nothing but pro talent. That's kind of was the knock on Tua, is like, he had all this pro talent around him. So that's why he's looking the way he looks. So let's see how he look when everybody on the team is in a pro. You know what I mean? Or everybody on the team is in a first-round pick. So Tua's going to have to show and prove next year. And Brian Flores is making moves, and I know Brian Flores is going to always make the move that's best for the team, whether that's mid-game, after the game, before the game. He going to make the move that's going to make them competitive, man. And I don't think Buffalo should be worried about the Dolphins, but, I mean, Brian Flores is going to put them in a position to win.
No, I don't think that it's something – if they could stabilize quarterback position, then sure, that's a concern. But as of right now – and they've done a few goofy things themselves, but I wanted to get to your just talking about offensive line, and I was stunned. And maybe, I'm not a Chiefs insider, but I was stunned when they cut their tackles, and now they've obviously chosen to revamp the interior of their line with Joe Thuney, Kyle Long, but I was kind of just really surprised. My understanding, I know he was hurt, is that Mitchell Schwartz wasn't he the highest graded tackle as per PFF? I know he was for a while. I don't know like I said, last year he got hurt, but cutting both your starting offensive tackles after you've won a Super Bowl one year and then went the next year, that's a bold move.
It is and it isn't. Like, they're both coming off, horrendous injuries. Eric Fisher came off an Achilles. Mitchell Schwartz came off of ankle, I think.
Yeah, something with his leg. I know that. Yeah. I don't know exactly.
So, I mean, they drafted Lucas Niang from TCU last year, so they might have foresaw this. And like you said, they've already revamped their interior, which tells me that they're probably going to run the ball more next year. They run the most RPOs in the league by a mile. So I can see that being the next evolution. They just let Damian Williams go too, so they did that. And I can see them drafting a tackle. This is a tackle-rich draft. There's a lot of tackles in this draft, so I can see them doing that too, or signing somebody. But it's not out of realm of possibility. I mean, this is a year where if you're cap-strapped in any way, like you're gonna have to make the tough moves. Like, look at the Titans. The Titans cut Adoree Jackson after drafting him 2 years ago, and he's not a bad corner. He was just hurt.
No, I don't.
And so, I mean, you just got to make these tough moves. They restructured Chris Jones' contract. They restructured Mahomes' contract. They restructured Kelsey's contract. Like, they're trying to make moves, and I commend them that they're big players for wanting to win and wanting to move their money around to get better players. But sometimes that's just what it comes down to when everyone's pretty much cap strapped this year, except for 3 teams. So you're going to have to make them tough decisions. But, I mean, letting both your tackles go, those are the 2 most valuable positions on the O-line. And the fact that they let them go, they must have a plan in place that we don't know about, obviously. But like I said, Lucas Niang is probably in that plan because they drafted him last year. And so they're probably going to draft one of those top-end tackles too. So, I mean, the Chiefs know what they're doing. I always got faith in Andy Reid. You know what he's doing. The Chiefs are always going to be there just because they got a solid front office, solid coaching staff. So they'll be right there.
So it looks like to me, and we've talked about this as a fan base a lot, is that obviously Brandon Beane is very good at really going into the draft with not many super pressing needs. Like he makes it on himself, so he almost can take best player available. Not quite, but it's close to that sort of a situation. To me, I think the one glaring need right now is what you talked about, defensive backs. I mean, that's kind of, I know we might be another guard, and certainly we've talked about the upgrade at tight end, but I think to me, the one sort of glaring need is cornerback, safety, whatever you want to call that in the draft. So where do you see right now? I mean, I know you're a big believer in that anyway, but it's setting up where they really could take 2 or 3 of these guys if they wanted to. What do you see the draft looking right now for the Bills?
This is what I'm gonna give Bills Mafia my dream scenario. This is my dream scenario.
All right.
The Bills take pick 30. They trade back, get 2 second rounders and a 4th rounder. Take 2 corners and a guard in rounds 2 and 3. So they take, let's say, they've been looking at Ife Malafalu. I think that's how you say it, from Syracuse.
Yeah.
They've been looking at this kid, Darren Hall from San Diego State University. He'll be there later in the draft. But let's say they take a high-end cornerback, take Asante Samuel Jr. So those are 2 of the best. They should take at least 2 of the best corners in this draft because they can be put in a position to do so. And when you get with your 3rd round picks, I think, do they have two 3rd round picks? I'm not sure, but they have.
I think they just have 1, and I know they don't have a 4th, right? They don't have
right.
A
That's
4th.
what I'm saying. That's why I say if they trade back, they can get a 4th. Take a guard. This is a guard-rich draft. Take a guard, and you'll be happy. And then they should just take BPA the rest of the draft. Take the best pass rusher available. Even take the best running back available. I wouldn't even hate that later in the draft. Not 1st or 2nd round. So my dream scenario is that they trade out of 30, get more 2nd round picks, get a 4th round pick, and just eat off of these later round picks because they don't have to get, blue chip guys. They don't need a blue chip guy. But they can get blue chip guys in the 2nd round. Like I said, Asante Samuel Jr., Greg Newsome, Ife Malafalu from Syracuse. They can get these good high-end players later in the draft. And everybody's like, well, you got to take somebody in the 1st round because, these are blue chip players and you got to get them. But you don't, though. You don't. Tom Brady was a 7th round pick. You can clearly get value, Hall of Fame level value, in the 7th round. And the Bills have shown the Bills Mafia that they can hit on these later draft picks. Dane Jackson's a 7th round pick.
Right.
Levi Wallace is undrafted. You know what I mean? So,
the 2 tackles, I know this is going back a little while, but the 2 tackles in Green Bay when Brett Favre was there, Tosher and what's his face? They were both 7th round picks.
Yeah, so you can find value in a draft. You don't have to go for the sexy names all the time. And I'm sure Brandon Beane and his scouting staff have done their homework and their research, and they see these gems. They see them. So trading back in a draft, especially when you're in a position like the Bills are, even if you weren't in a position like the Bills are, if you're not taking a quarterback, you should always trade back. Trade back and get more opportunities. So that's what the Bills should do. Trade back out of 30, get more opportunities, get more good players, shore up that back end, shore up that line, get some depth on that line. And then if they take a couple edge rushers, I'd be happy with this draft.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's the thing, too, that I think slips under the rug for me, edge rusher. I mean, Mario Addison wasn't as bad as as I sometimes say he was, but wasn't as good as I hoped he was. So they certainly have some sort of sneaky depth needs, I guess might be the best way to say it as it comes to the draft. And I think they did about as much as they can do in free agency. I know that there's always a restructure around the corner, but at some point you kind of run out of guys to go to. So is there anything else you want to cover before we get out of here and tell the people where they can find us on Twitter and all that? Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I think we covered all the moves that are Bills specific, and I think as a Bills centric podcast, covered all of the Bills specific and Bills centric moves. And like I said, Bills Mafia are in a great position as you just said, Charlie, they've done pretty much all they can do in free agency. I mean, they can't give top dollar and get a blue chip guy. All those guys are gone, unfortunately. Maybe they make a play on Kyle Rudolph if this Ertz thing doesn't go through. So that's probably the next move I'm looking for, is that tight end move. Or maybe they just stick for one in the draft. I mean, Hunter Long from Boston College is a solid option. Brevin Jordan from Miami is a solid option. Trey McKitty from Georgia is a solid option also. So they can find another tight end, in the draft. But that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking forward to the draft and seeing what they do. Like I said, if they trade back, if you see them trade back, then that would be a great draft for the Bills.
Yeah, I'd love to see him trade back. I'm a trade back guy. Yeah. So I'm all for that. All right. Well, where can the Mafia find you so they can discuss generational running back talent with you?
Don't come in my DMs or my mentions talking about generational running backs. I will destroy you. Anyway, you can find me at eDaniel77, like it says right there, on Twitter. That is where I'm the most active, but I'm also on Instagram at Mr. Ham and Turkey. I'm also on Facebook at Ernest Daniels, so you can interact with me there. But if you want to get instant and immediate reactions from me and immediate takes from me, at eDaniel77 on Twitter is the place that I will be. And also, I run the PFF Bills page for PFF, so please go follow that if you're not following it right now for all Bills stats, grades, and Bills-specific articles.
All right. With that said, you can find me on Twitter at Charlie_Gross_. We would like to thank everyone for listening. And if you're listening to this podcast on Thursday, you missed us going live on YouTube on Wednesday night when we recorded this podcast. Obviously, the video is up there if you want to go watch it now. We are part of the Bills Brawl at Bills Brawl, which is part of the Brawl Network. We encourage you to check that out. That is awesome. Also, if you could help us out and rate, and review the podcast. Also, come on to this YouTube channel, comment, like the video. That's how the YouTube algorithm works. And same thing for the podcast. Getting reviews and ratings on the podcast is how other Bills fans find the Bills Brawl. So that's really important, and we really thank you for taking the time to do that. We are probably going to be broadcasting on Facebook in the future as well. I just didn't have a chance to set up the Facebook page. Was working on the YouTube page. And with that said, Bills Mafia, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Find a way to embrace your growth mindset. And as always, trust the process.
Team best in the AFC, all the praise of Brandon Bean. You hear Sean McDermott clapping while I'm snapping? Do you? Jerry Hughes will get the sack soon as you snap it. Yeah. Andre Roberts running back, ain't no just backing. Mafia, we on a ride and we got traction. We got Beasley, we got Diggs. Ike McKenzie make you miss. Dawson Knox with the stiff arm, treat opponents just like his. Feliciano, Deion Dawkins block defenders like the fence. Hey.